Warning, this podcast contains adult language that may not be suitable for children.
This is the Flabbergasted podcast, where we just can't believe you haven't seen it. Every episode, we discuss a movie that one of us has seen and the other hasn't. Follow us on Instagram @FlabberPod and subscribe in your podcast app of choice. I'm your host, Jessica. Let's get to it. Okay, so here we go, talking about the 1984 PG Ghostbusters film, directed by Ivan Reitman. It is classified as a action, comedy, fantasy, sci-fi. And after losing their academic posts at a prestigious university, a team of parapsychologists goes into business as proton-packing, toting Ghostbusters who exterminate ghouls, hobgoblins, and supernatural pests of all stripes. An ad campaign pays off when a knockout cellist hires the squad to purge her swanky digs of demons that appear to be living in her refrigerator.
Good to be here, Jess.
So we just actually watched this together, Ghostbusters, and Rogge had never seen this movie.
Correct.
So why is this a movie you've never seen?
Now, when I say I've never seen it, it's possible that under the age of 8 at some point, like I had a mental picture of the Marshmallow Man walking down the street, but he was more Michelin Man in my brain. I thought he had more Michelin. Is this a, what's it called? A Mandela effect situation?
I have not officially looked it up, but I would say yes, because I always thought it was I always associated with the Michelin Man too.
Yeah. And I thought that they all stood on a balcony. I guess they kind of do stand on a balcony.
But nothing else was like, oh, you should go see this, or have you seen this? Or
I mean, go see this. It came out 7 years before I was born. Besides that, you kind of get your run. We never had like cable or anything it would have been on.
Yeah.
I definitely had a cousin that had it on VHS, but it just never happened, I don't think. I think part of it is it's so culturally ubiquitous that I've seen references to it.
Oh, yeah.
There's a bunch of it in Stranger Things for sure. And just in all, in SNL skits and whatever else. So I was like, I think I've pretty much got the gist. And I was not right, really. I mean, I didn't really know. I guess I knew what it was about, but I also didn't, if that makes sense.
I know, we were watching it and you're like, I thought this was about a marshmallow guy.
Yeah, it turns out it's not just about the marshmallow guy.
I don't remember not seeing this film. I don't remember the first time I saw it. Mm-hmm. I don't remember not knowing what it was.
Always been in your brain.
Yeah, which is very, if I'm thinking back and looking back on it, I do tend to get the first one and the second one confused until they start talking about the Keymaster, and which I know is into it. But for whatever reason, I get the first one and the second one confused.
Do they they go back to being college professors and get kicked out of college again?
No, in the second one, if I recall correctly, they stay in the business, and there's just a different, Dana's in the second one again too, but there's just a different big bad, if you will. But
the EPA.
If I recall correctly, they're in it as well.
Sure.
Which is an entertaining.
Why not? It was such a useful and logical part of the first movie. You got to bring it back. The people demand more EPA
guidance.
Plot.
Yeah. I seem to have fond memories of this movie, and all of, again, these the little cultural references that you pick up, and I think oh yeah, it's really great. But I'm not gonna lie, watching this, I was not particularly this is the best. So I don't know if over time my, tastes maybe have changed, or if it's just hasn't aged as well or what, because I definitely have 3 times on my notes I've written, that's creepy, that's creepy, that's creepy. And I was not talking about the ghosts.
Right. I think, obviously I don't want to put words in your mouth. One guess I might have is that it just starts out with creepy, as creepy as in unwanted male attention creepy.
Yeah.
It starts out with creepy Bill Murray, creepy Rick Moranis, the like gender dynamics early on. And that's like, obviously besides the very first library scene, that's pretty much your lead into the movie is him cheating at the card game. And I mean, I don't know if we want to get into it now, but I agree with you. I wouldn't not watch it again if someone was doing like a Ghostbusters party or something, but like it's fine. I wouldn't like fight about it, but I wouldn't seek it out. Like I didn't laugh at any point.
Yeah.
And like from that very first scene, he's flipping it and showing the guy that he's wrong and buzzing him. And then he doesn't flip it to her. And so it's not that I didn't get it, but I was like, this isn't a smart joke. Like I don't think he's smart. The joke isn't smart. And it went on like a really long time. They did it like 4 times. And I was like, what is this movie? I don't like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
We're just establishing that this guy is a creep. So that way, when he's incredibly creepy with Sigourney Weaver, that was like, what's going to go on here when he wouldn't leave her apartment? I didn't like that.
So back to the first thing when he's flipping the cards, though, he did say he's studying the effects of negative reinforcement. So
right,
I get sort of why he's shocking him when he's, quote, wrong.
Yeah.
But I still didn't love it was like the way out to introduce his creepiness, and I didn't love that.
Yeah.
I even wrote, like, Bill Murray is not delightful, and we watched Groundhog Day today, and I was watching it, and I'm like, again, this is one of those movies that's just always been in the background, and I'm watching, I'm like, he's pretty creepy in this. Like, in the movie, have you seen Groundhog Day?
I have. It was probably like 15 years ago.
If you watched any of the scenes more, I don't know, any of the scenes for like 15 minutes or something, I would be curious if anybody else is picking up the creeper vibes or if it's just like, am I just in a weird mood and I'm picking that up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It could be.
I did have a note that when they introduced the whole team, he says, I just forgot Ray's last name again, but he talks about, he's like doctor, and then Egon.
Yeah, they do call him like, Egon a lot.
Is he not a doctor?
Why do they all have such weird names? Is this like a Big Bang Theory
where Howard's not a doctor? Are you familiar with Big Bang Theory?
I mean, I'm familiar with it broadly. I've not watched it.
Oh, okay. Well, it's a thing. If you're in the audience, you might recognize it. Why do they have weird names? I don't know.
They all had really weird names.
Yeah. I wrote down too, like, they get kicked out of the college, which I get. I like how the college was like, we think science should be, and I forgot the word he used, but like a gift to people and like encouraging the growth of people.
Mankind or something.
Yes. And he's like, and you're not doing that. And I'm like,
well, he was like, you're a bad scientist.
Yeah.
Which he was.
He was.
They just like kept pounding it in like, he's a bad scientist. He's a bad scientist. But it wasn't in a sympathetic way. The whole thing was just, he's not trying to be a good scientist.
Right. He's the guy in the group that doesn't do any of the group projects.
Is he the protagonist? I feel like Dan Aykroyd's the more likable protagonist here. But he's the one that gets the girl for some reason at the end.
No, not Dan Aykroyd.
No, right, exactly. Bill Murray gets the girl, and then so I don't understand why. Like, was I supposed to be rooting for him at literally one point in the entire film? I don't know. I want to talk about pacing a little bit. I thought the pacing was good. It was like moving quickly. We saw Ghost immediately. We get the plot lift off about them getting kicked off and having to start Ghostbusters. That stuff happens quickly. They don't drag out them getting the seed money and finding a place. That all happens, I mean, almost too quickly. Like they, get the mortgage and buy a place in the same day. Like that, those things don't happen that quickly. Maybe in the 80s they did. So I appreciated that. The movie didn't drag. It
didn't feel rushed, I don't think either, though. Like from a realistic perspective, you're saying they wouldn't have gotten that all on the same day, which I totally agree.
Maybe there's days in between that we're just not seeing. But it's entirely possible.
They showed us the stuff we needed to see, and we knew stuff happened off screen.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to assume. So that part was fine, but within scenes, some individual scenes for me kind of dragged. Like the physical, anytime they're doing physical comedy, it just went on like 3 beats longer. Like, oh, he's got slime on his hand. He's really shaking it off. And like, there should have been a laugh track. I mean, obviously they don't do laugh track in a movie like that, but
You felt like you were supposed to laugh, but you weren't feeling like you like laughing.
And so maybe this is kind of a well-documented thing on Flabbergasted, which is my lack of exposure to films that are classified as comedies, or lack of exposure / lack of interest. I don't think that movies are supposed to be funny are funny. That's my very first note is that I don't know if it's the mood, but the physical comedy, none of them seem to have, people talk about back in like the silent film days, Charlie Chaplin or Buster Keaton, like a gift of slapstick, right? Or like there's more modern actors. Oh, we could have put them back then. And it still would have been funny with them tripping and stuff.
Yeah.
And none of that was happening. Like, what was the funniest gag? Was it Dan Aykroyd crossing his eyes when a ghost was going down on him? Is what I'm assuming was supposed to be happening there. And then he rolls out of bed.
What is supposed to be the funniest gag, or what actually was the funniest?
What's supposed to be? What was in the trailer?
Like, oh my gosh, I don't even know.
No, but like hypothetically, like what? Yeah. Like what would you like? You just watched the movie. If you were cutting a trailer for it, what would you put on there? There's not a line where he's like, "And you got ghostbusted." Like they don't have a capper line like that.
Yeah.
There's not one. Like there's no green slime. I guess there's. Marshmallow gets dumped on people. The funniest thing I thought happened in the movie was when they're in the mayor's office for some reason, and he was like, "It's true, sir. Yes. He doesn't have a dick." And that's what I was told. And like he's playing that off in a really weird way for a guy that just like ruined his livelihood. And I was like, he's being glib here, and that's the only thing I think that he's been funny this whole time.
Because it's sort of clever, well timed.
Yeah.
You're not expecting that.
Yeah.
I think those types of lines in the movie are probably what I enjoy the most about the movie.
Yeah.
That and Let's Not Get Crazy, the theme song, right, of course, and the whole montage
carries
there.
It carries it. Yeah, the montage was fine.
Yeah.
Because you're rooting because Dan Aykroyd is successfully capturing ghosts, and you're like, okay, it's working well.
They got the car up and running. Yeah. It's a very iconic siren sound. Like, how is that not fun? That's so fun.
Love how they got I have a whole note about the fireman's house, the fire station that they got. They did it up really nicely in a way I appreciate. I love reclaiming an industrial space to have it be partially residential and like used for other purposes. So
I love how they're really like, cool. Ooh, the structure's not really that great. Yeah. And both Egon and Peter are like, I don't know about this. And they're trying to get the negotiating to happen. And then Ray slides down thing. He's like, let's move in. Okay, that didn't work. But also I was like, props to Ray because he just took out a third mortgage. So he should get what he wants.
He gets the final say on that.
Yeah.
It was things. But even like when I broadly look back at that scene, we walked into one building that it was clearly in terrible shape. And Egon said that it was in terrible shape in 100 different ways, the wiring and their power needs and stuff. And he goes, there's a pole, and they bought it immediately. I was like, was there a joke here? Like I didn't entirely... Like we needed to go to a couple other places or have them be listing all the requirements to a realtor who's like, oh, that's so many requirements. Yeah. Like I either needed more or we didn't have to have the scene, or we could have just had them buying, like moving in. Like it was the only thing we could afford. Like that was all I really needed.
That's interesting.
But it's indicative of a lot of the scenes. Same thing with the car. I didn't realize they needed a car. Sure. Okay. But at least they just brought the car in.
Do you think that it's sort of because they don't really know what they're doing, so the movie feels sort of like in that time frame, they don't know what they're doing?
Actually, do they not know what they're doing, or do they develop technology that no one else has access to, with no lab that I can see, that is entirely proprietary, that has to be incredibly expensive? Egon's aggressively competent scientifically.
I feel like they each individually know what they're doing, but they don't really know what they're doing together. So that's why Ray goes out and buys the car, and there's no conversation about it because he knows we need a car.
Yeah, as like a business venture, it's disorganized. Yeah, sure.
Does that help any?
Yeah,
or you're like,
but
nah?
I don't care. Like, is that funny? Is it supposed to be funny that they weren't on the same page? He didn't even yell at him. He's like, how much was it? $4,800. It's 2024. I don't know if that's a lot or a little.
I feel like that's a lot.
It's more than I paid for my car 5 years ago.
Exactly. But, I feel like it's a lot.
But it was like, it's a really long car that has like special stuff to it. So like, I don't know.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, Bill Murray, it needs to be explained to me. Because I think here's what I want to get into. Because we're going to talk soon about I don't know what term you want to use, like the masculine, the male female dynamic stuff. Like we can hit some examples and things like that. I definitely want to get to that. Bill Murray, is it supposed to be funny that he isn't taking his job seriously? The first 2/3 of him being a Ghostbuster, he's rolling his eyes every time they talk about ghosts. Every time. And he's walking through this hotel and he's like, oh man, who ordered room service? Like it's just, there's nothing going on. But I'm supposed to think it's hilarious. Like a whole scene will go by and all it is him being like, these eggheads. And then it pauses like the audience is supposed to laugh. And I don't understand. He didn't demonstrate any value to me at any point.
No. What did he bring to the team?
It's not like he was an expert on this history part of it or the religion or what he brought to the table was he liked the fame and put himself as the front man, like the face of it. I guess he's more personable, but not to me. I would rather hang out with either of the other guys. He was a jerk all the time to everyone. And like you said, that's him in Groundhog Day, kind of? Is that just him? Was that his thing in the 80s?
I'm trying to think of the other Bill Murray movies that I know, because I know at one point in my life I thought he was funny.
What about Bob?
Okay. That's a funny movie.
Okay.
It is. He's super annoying in that movie, though.
Right.
But he's not an asshole. Like, he's just annoying.
Right. Lost in Translation.
I never saw that one.
I'm running out of Bill Murray movies I'm familiar with. SNL. Was he on SNL?
I'm sure he was, but I don't remember it.
Me neither.
Well, let me ask you this. Okay. You saw the new one.
New what?
The new Ghostbusters movie, Ghostbusters Afterlife?
Wrong. Have not seen.
Okay. Oh, shoot. Okay.
Is that the one with Mike from Stranger Things? Mike Wheeler. Okay.
Finn?
Yes, Finn Wolfhard. And then there's straight Ghostbusters, Mike Wheeler, It's Cold Now, and that's about to come out?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so.
Ghostbusters.
There's a new one.
Ghostfrosters.
I don't know what the new one's. I haven't seen a good preview for it, I don't think, but I was just going to ask, but I don't want to spoil anything for you, so we'll move that off the table. I don't know if that's Bill Murray's standard character. I'm drawing a blank on the other things that I've seen him in, but this is the hopeful part of me is like, I think maybe he is the way he is because in this movie, right? I'm just drawing a bunch of crazy conclusions here. But what the other thing that he brings to the team is, you made the comment that he's sort of like the front man.
Yeah.
So who's going to fight the EPA guy if Bill Murray's not doing it?
I mean, Egon put himself in front of it and said, no, it's a terrible idea. Don't do it. I mean, he didn't seem worse.
Bill Murray's the one who's like, you'll save thousands of registered voters.
Yeah.
And he's got to the politician.
So he can be convincing.
Yeah. And I don't think that Ray or Egon or even Winston, who I really enjoy, would be able to pass that off.
Yeah.
Maybe. So I wonder if that's kind of what he brings.
He has some kind of charisma factor.
Yeah.
It didn't work for me, but it did work for those other people. So maybe that is helpful.
Other notes that I have, which apparently I was just stuck on how unrealistic certain things were, but so we watched this with Rachel and Jeremy, and the first Slimer, when they go to get him, he ends up in the ballroom, and the first thing that Rachel says is,
did you quote Rachel? Because I did too.
Oh, yes. She's like, that is thousands. Look at all that work. That is thousands of dollars of damage.
I think even before that, she said, oh, no, they're going to destroy the ballroom.
Yes.
Very good, Rachel. They are.
So beautiful, which is funny. And you probably don't know this, and we've never talked about it before, but Rachel is, I don't really know how to explain it.
She's passionate about event
planning?
Yes.
And coordinating,
wedding.
kind of?
and showers and things like that.
Like,
so especially
she knows
wedding-based
what goes
things.
into it, and whenever she does an event, it's gorgeous. So like, it was definitely a Rachel thing to notice that and to say it, which I loved.
Yeah, it was right on cue for
and
Rachel.
And then they're like, what did they say, $5,000? And she's like, and they're not going to cover any of the damage that they just did.
Right.
That is ridiculous. And Jeremy goes, well, we can just put him back.
Right. Again, is it supposed to be funny that they're bad at firing their blasters?
I think that was the first real time they were firing them, though, you know?
They were so bad, though. And it wasn't just like, okay, let me take a shot to see how the aiming works and to squeeze in the trigger a few times. It was long, protracted beam, clearly missing everything. And so all I could imagine was that either that was some sort of joke about whatever, the phallic nature of the beams or something, you know, or it's just supposed to be funny that they're bad at it. Like,
I think
that was
it's
all
just
I
supposed
could.
to be funny that they're bad at it.
Okay.
Because at the end, they're very regimented when they like pull the things out of the pack. And
right. Because even at the beginning, he's like, new rule, don't cross the streams. I'm like, are you seeing these guys? That's like telling me to go up to pitch on a major league mound and telling me to paint the inside corner. Like, I can't get the ball close to the plate. Like, what are we? You're not talking to people that have control over the thing that they're shooting.
But also maybe like, you should have told us that before we fired it the first time too. Like, hey, don't do this.
But man, the scientific process, you'd think Egon and Dan Aykroyd would be a little more like, let's get a couple practice runs in here. We're going to set up a dummy. We're all going to try to do this. We got to get some, proof of concept with these beams.
Yeah.
So that's weird.
Do you think that that's, I don't know about movies, but that was a silly thing to say. I know about movies. I don't know about what movies you're drawing when you think of these things, but do you think that our expectation for that is because the first movie that's coming to my head is X-Men First Class when he's teaching. Oh, you haven't? Okay.
No, I'm not. No.
It's the
That's X-Men, but they're kids. The X-Men pre-X-Men, X-Men prequel.
No, it's young X-Men.
What about which one is it? The X-Men movie, but then it's also the Cuban Missile Crisis.
X-Men First Class.
Okay.
So Professor X, I mean, this is not going to track, but Gandalf. Professor X takes the guy into
Professor X is Sir Patrick Stewart. Okay.
Or James McAvoy.
Pass. Patrick Stewart.
Yeah, but his younger version is James McAvoy.
DH Patrick Stewart. This isn't that hard.
Okay. I mean, I love Patrick Stewart too. Don't get me wrong. But anyways, he takes him into the bomb shelter and he's trying to get him to, he basically like explodes. I think his name's Arclight or something like that. And he explosions out of his chest or something. I can't remember exactly what the power is. But anyways, they have 3 dummies and he's like hit the center one. And like, there's this whole training process. Yeah. And I know that there are other movies, all of the hero movies. There's a training montage.
The first time he misses all of them and the guy's like, oh no, what a bad, he puts his hand on his forehead. And I mean, it's even with
Django and
bow and
even
arrows.
Kind of thing.
Absolutely. I mean, you can go back to like starting to work on swords. There's whole stuff in Harry Potter, right? When they're trying to teach Neville how to do their spells during the DA. Yeah.
So do you think like we're just like, we want that because we're conditioned to see it? We want to see that journey?
I don't think it's that I want to see it. it takes me out. It takes me out of my suspension of disbelief when I'm like, okay, these are at least 2 of these guys are really good, competent scientists who know their stuff. They could not and would not have skipped these kinds of steps.
Yeah.
Because if they had a box to catch it in, so presumably they had a place to store it already built up. They already built the storage facility, but hadn't once tried firing their plasma rays. Come on.
Yeah.
And maybe that's us being picky, and it's just Ghostbuster movies. We're busting ghosts, but they don't bust that many ghosts on screen. They have the first Slimer, then it's montage. They're always carrying a steaming box, but we do not see them shoot until they shoot again at
the end.
Androgynous David Bowie character.
I blame Peter.
Sure.
They didn't have time to practice because
he's not thinking with his brain.
Them. He's like, we got to go do this thing. Got it right now.
They're doing all of their PR stunts. Yep. They're going on TV and all that. And they're on a million different magazines. Yes. From the Atlantic to like the New York Post.
Yes. I did love at one point, I don't know if it's in the commercial, but he does say there's a beginning line and then he says, no fee is too big.
Yeah.
No fee.
Yeah.
And
no,
it's like,
no job too big. Yeah. No job too small. No fee too big.
Yes,
yeah. He said
that's what it is.
supposed to be
No job-
funny.
yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
I thought I did kind of think that was funny.
Okay, so let's talk about all of the ways in which this 40-year-old movie does not age well into our current climate in terms of the weird patriarchy stuff.
What's interesting is I wrote down like creepy, and I even said like creepy count. Peter's creepy. Lewis is creepy.
He's so creepy.
And I know that he's like...
He's creepy in a Marty McFly's dad way.
Yeah.
From but when he's young and Back to the Future.
Yes.
When he's being played by...
Like, he's literally waiting for her to walk past the door, and she is being very nice.
Yes,
Way too nice.
Absolutely.
She shouldn't even have to do any of that. So...
But she does have to, because otherwise she's gonna wake up with him standing over her with a knife.
With a knife, yeah. Yeah. Which is just blows my mind. But I also... Fun fact, I have a note in here where I say...
I don't think that counts as a fun fact. That's just what it is. That's just notes.
I just have a note in here that says, is Janine creepy too?
Who's Janine?
The secretary. Who loves
She creeps
her, by
on
the way.
Egon the whole time.
Yeah.
It's not creepy when the woman is doing it because there's not the implied imbalance of power.
Okay.
It's creepy when a man does it to a woman because, I mean, obviously not from not Harold Ramis, Rick Moranis to Sigourney Weaver. I mean, he could wake up over her, but he's not going to physically overpower her. I think that broadly, that's kind of the implication, is that her trying to flirt with him is more harmless, and it's her asking him questions about his life and do you like this and that. And she's not like actually pushing herself on him, but broadly, yeah, I think there's a perceived power dynamic imbalance. Like there's not as much of a perceived threat of violence if a woman is coming on a little bit strong to a man.
I'm with you there. I did write a note and I looked it up because I'm apparently somebody who has to look up heights of people while we're watching movies. This is a thing for me.
You're learning this about yourself?
Yeah. Yeah.
Sylvester Stallone is like 5'7", isn't he?
I don't know. I have to look it up while I'm watching the movie. But I tend to notice, for whatever reason, I notice more specifically, or I ask myself, how tall is that person? Then when I look them up, they're about 6 foot or taller.
Okay.
Whenever I have that question in my head, I look them up and they're about 6 foot or taller.
Okay.
So I did look it up, and Sigourney Weaver is about 6 foot. Mm-hmm. And Rick Moranis, who, by the way, shout out to Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Shout out Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Shout out Canada.
And his physical comedy was pretty good.
Yeah, he's pretty good. Mm-hmm.
Like when he's getting possessed and all that. But anyways, he's 5'6". But there are some shots in that hallway where he looks very, very short.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's about 6 inches shorter than her.
I think the one that I'm thinking of specifically too, he's
How
like
tall are
leaning.
you?
I'm 5 foot.
Okay. Wow. You're like 15 inches shorter than me.
Yes.
Okay.
I think in the one he's sort of leaning, so it makes them look even more height differentiating. But
there's a couple times where I think it gives us a shot like from Sigourney Weaver's perspective when she's like backing into her apartment and like closing the door on him, and you're just looking down onto like his whole head.
Yeah, I think that's supposed to be funny maybe, or just interesting. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I don't know if it's funny or if it's like, look, even small creepy, like pathetic weak men are... Even pathetic, weak, small men are creepy and potentially dangerous. Because like, well, I tried to climb up the balcony and into your window
to shut it off. Yeah. Didn't love.
They
I don't love that.
present him as just one of those guys. And then, like him trying to discredit the librarian really early on. Like, do you have a history of psychosis in your family? Are you currently menstruating? Like, come on, dude.
Yeah.
But that was probably that was a joke you could make in the 80s.
Yeah.
And it's not a joke. I mean, I think you're supposed to think he's an idiot when he's asking it because you know that it's true, but that he's just being overly cynical and because he's trying to preemptively discredit her.
I think for me now, I'm just like, it's not even funny because people still really think that way.
Really?
If you're in a bad mood, okay, I'm not talking about if you're being crazy, but if you're in a bad mood, people are still like, Are you on your period? You're in a bad mood because you're on your period.
Yeah.
No, maybe I'm just in a bad mood because you're a moron.
Yeah.
And I've had to stand here and listen to you talk for 2 hours.
I think of that as a trope that I see in TV shows that like old white men CEOs will be like, oh, don't listen to her. It's just that time of the month. And but I mean, obviously I am privileged. I don't have to deal with that on a daily basis, but I am blown away that people still sincerely are like, oh, this, you
saying
don't
it
really
to blow you off.
You don't really think that you're just, feeling bad because of whatever. That's ridiculous.
I still get you should smile.
What?
Yeah.
Wow. I thought those were tropes. I didn't know that happened in real life to people.
Yes. I'm so curious. Yeah. It happens in real life. I'm like,
never to me.
I don't want to smile. I don't need to smile. Now, I do believe that if you smile, like you can help. Like
Trick
there's
your
a
brain
positive
into
psychology thing
dopamine.
there.
Yeah.
But
That's
sometimes
different.
I don't want to smile. I'm in a bad mood. I just want to kind of process that on my own and figure it out. And I don't need somebody who doesn't know me saying, why don't you smile more?
Yeah.
It's different if it's like.
This is how you know I'm a good feminist ally, is because I know never to tell a woman that she'd be so much prettier if you smiled any of that kind of stuff. And I would never think to do that. That's crazy.
Yeah. Yes, and it happens still.
Bill Murray 40 years ago, take notes. Goodness gracious. So we've got the montage, which we're almost we're seeing about half of it on various small TVs in Sigourney Weaver's apartment.
Yeah.
So she's
keeping up with them.
She's keeping up with it on purpose. Why?
Or they're just really saturating the advertising
while she does her Tybo.
Target markets.
Yes.
Target markets.
They're saturating just the wavelengths. There's only 4 channels in 1984, right?
Yeah.
So they're just on all of them.
They're like, let's hit it.
They're on the newsstands.
But she does seem to be chuckling, like as she's following along with it.
And then she meets up with him and is like, they're like touching each other flirtily, and she's giggling at him.
Weird.
I'm like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah, why are you encouraging this?
What has he done? Shouldn't you be like, I hate you, go away. Other man I trust, come here right now and stand next to me. I don't want this creep here.
Yeah.
Have they actually still been working her case?
See, that's the other thing I wonder. He's like, well, I've got some information for you. Here's Zool and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But as a side note, and maybe this is because, I'm more empowered than maybe she was. But I have worked with businesses where I've said, listen, this person is fine. I just would really appreciate working with somebody else. Can we make that happen? And I've said that at least on 3 occasions.
Mm-hmm. So we're seeing all of this stuff happen in the montage, which we agree is one of the best pieces of the film because it's just able to go quickly. Yeah. And I'm just, at that point, I'm watching the montage. I'm finally getting the Ghostbusters song. And I'm so thankful that I'm getting quick Dan Aykroyd and Bill Murray jokes. I'm not lingering on a scene where I'm just supposed to think it's hilarious that Dan Aykroyd is in a room breathing, or Bill Murray, like just them making like not even interesting faces.
Yeah.
Just like the stuff that had been happening in the previous scenes was not catching me at all.
Did we get Winston before or after this? Because I really like his...
It's the very end of the montage we get Winston, I think.
I really like his introduction. He comes in, he's here about the job, and she's like, do you believe in blah, blah, blah? And he's like, if there's a paycheck, I believe in it. Yeah. And I was like, there's somebody who's not too proud to do a job, which I just connected with because I'm like, get it, you know what you want, you're going to get the paycheck, you're there to do it, and you're going to jump right in because you want to be there. And I've worked at a lot of places, maybe I shouldn't say a lot of places, but I've worked at places where people want the paycheck, but they don't actually want to do the job to get the paycheck. So I appreciated that from Winston. I also like that he's sort of dry. He's like the balance to Peter Venkman's character.
He's like the everyman.
Yeah.
Yeah. I see. This is where we're going to disagree. The actor I thought was perfectly fine. He just showed up and I was like, okay, what's going on with this guy? I was like, Nothing. He's just here for a job that we didn't know was being offered. We didn't get the spinning newspaper, help wanted, like business is booming. We didn't get anything like that. So he shows up and he's already getting the job. I was like, oh, okay. What's he bringing to the team? Nothing. He's just another set of hands. He's not like, oh, you guys really need this science that I'm an expert in. Like I thought it was going to be something like that. And now we've got the 4 teammates. It's like, no, we got the 3 teammates and also this black dude that we hired, which is like a little problematic. Like if there's any kind of like, well, we're all the doctors and that's Winston. Like, okay. He's proved himself to be perfectly competent, without needing to be a doctor. So I just didn't, there's not that much of him. There's him saying that maybe he's Christian in a car. And besides that, he's just a guy that's there and is like, yeah, these guys are crazy. So, I mean, I guess that's fine. Like if we just are needing a ballast of someone to show how wild and crazy the other guys are, but it didn't do a lot for me. I was ready for him to like have his thing and it never quite hit. It never quite came. Yeah.
It doesn't. I'm good with him, but I wouldn't mind seeing more of him in that. Yeah, I wouldn't have minded having a bigger part. I think he's great. I want him to have a bigger part. I love his voice.
Yeah.
And he's one of those people that I see on a TV show and I think, oh, I like him. This sounds horrible, but I can never remember his name. Ernie Hudson. Shout out. But I always seem to like him when I see him. I just don't remember him very well.
Okay, so explain to me when Sigourney Weaver is on the phone with her mom.
Yeah.
When she sits down on the couch.
I don't know.
She takes off a pair of pants and has a full pair of pants underneath it.
Yeah.
What's happening with that? From a woman's fashion perspective, tell me what's happening with that. I have no idea.
If she was wearing jeans and they were long johns and you're in New York, so is the wind kind of cutting? I don't know.
This is nothing that I'm missing where it's like, yeah, Rogge, this is what they do.
No. I will say 80s. In the past 3 weeks, I have definitely worn long johns under my jeans like 3 times.
Interesting. I have worn long johns to take the dogs to go play fetch like out in a big field in the past month, but I do not do it on a day-to-day basis, just living my life. Like getting in and out of the car. If I'm going to be outside for a while. Just for like while you're getting in and into and then out of the car. Because it's cold in your building.
Because it's kind of chilly and my extremities, particularly my feet, just get cold.
This is a male privilege thing. I've never been cold in my life.
It's just something I thought I would try to see if I can stay a little bit warmer.
Yeah. I went the day that we didn't have school, or like the day before we didn't have school because it was so cold. That maybe that day I took the dogs out to a field and I put on long underwear and pants and like a snow suit. And by the end I was like, my toes are noticeably cold. Like I might like in an uncomfortable way and it's just like, I recognize it. And none of the rest of me was cold during that whole time because that's just how my body works. And you would have like not walked outside on that day.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying and I just cannot comprehend that because I'm so cold a lot.
You're not the coldest person I know even. Yeah. Grace McDillon would never turn on air conditioning. Like in the middle of the summer, Grace McDillon, it gets too cold. She'll put on a sweatshirt. We'll come over. And so she's like, okay, I know that means we have to turn on the AC and set it to like 80. And then she'll put on a sweatshirt.
That's crazy.
It's insane.
I'm not that extreme, but I do not understand not being cold.
Yeah.
I mean, I hear what you're saying, but I can...
we're just living different lives.
Yeah, but I cannot, like, for myself, I can't picture it.
It's like it's like Rachel who can't eat anything that has pepper in it or anything that has ever seen pepper. And you're like, how? But the taste isn't painful. And she's like, but it's killing me. Yeah. Like, no, it's not. Like, I don't.
It's like when you need prescription glasses and you don't know it and you're like, oh, this isn't what normal looks like.
Right. Or you ever think about how, like, when I see green, is it the same green that you see? That kind of thing.
Yes. It's very trippy.
Ghostbusters. So there's a tone shift where, okay, now Sigourney Weaver and Rick Moranis are possessed.
Yes.
And it's kind of funny that when Rick Moranis is possessed, he's walking around and it reminded me of the Vincent D'Onofrio character from Men in Black.
Men in Black,
yes.
yeah. Except
how he's like
a rather
staggering.
shorter
Yes, so
version.
much smaller. 1/3 size. Just grabbed by the corner and shrunk down on Microsoft Paint dramatically. But with the head tilt and some of the neck, it was a lot of neck work by Rick Moranis.
And his take on that is very different than Sigourney Weaver's take on it.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that was like a director's choice.
She became,
or if that was the actor's choice.
Dangerous leopard goddess kind of thing. And he became, I'm filled with bugs.
Yeah.
And it's because she's the gatekeeper and he's the keymaster. Or whatever. And it was kind of interesting that they were like, okay, there's going to be a mythology and it doesn't matter. Like the details of what's happening here are not like, we're just going to say some buzzwords. We're going to say Zool and Hittite and Gatemaster and stuff. And they kept saying Gozer or something. Gozer. And I was like, am I supposed to know what that means? I hope not. And it's fine. It's just ghosts
they tell you what it means when he was saying Gozer's the destroyer.
Okay.
That takes on different forms. Like Rick Moranis' character says that to Egon and Janine.
Oh, like Rick Moranis when he's not weird little
when
Lewis
he's got
or whatever.
The colander on his head.
Yeah,
like he says it a little bit. Yeah. And then Bill Murray, Peter says a little bit to Dana.
He says Gozer a few times.
Zool worships Gozer. Mm-hmm. Something to that effect.
People
so it's just enough It's just enough to get you to where you're like, okay, this makes sense.
This is the thing. This is the MacGuffin.
This is where we're going with this.
But some of the Sigourney Weaver scenes, like her floating above the bed and like the way that her eyes were, or her tackling him onto the bed, was like, this isn't a comedy right now. I mean, it's not like I was scared or whatever. I was like, the tone is really shifting.
Yes.
And she's doing a good job. She's acting in a way that's very powerful.
Good. I think. Yeah. Like other movies that she's been in, she's good.
I've not seen Alien.
I haven't seen it either. Okay. I do think it's very interesting that creepy Peter is like, it seems like there's already two people inside of you. It might get a little crowded, right? She's kind of putting the moves on him and he is resisting. And I'm like, well, we're supposed to be endearing to him now. Like,
was that an inside you joke?
Yeah.
Yikes. I didn't recognize it. I wasn't quite catching all of that.
I think something was sort of happening right at that minute.
Yeah.
But yeah. Something in our building, which was distracting from the movie, was happening right like at that time.
I wasn't really worried about him taking advantage of her in that state. You know, the thought crosses your mind, like, is he gonna, no, he's not.
I mean,
and he did.
That would be horrible for who's supposed to be our hero. The way he acted last time
he was in that apartment.
That's what I'm saying.
Was ridiculous.
Like, we're supposed to
I'm just going to shoot my shot. I'm madly in love with you.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah.
That's such an inappropriate thing to say to a client that you just met. So she's a cellist.
Also, I don't know were there any clues to that?
No, that's what I'm saying. I learned that when you were reading it off of IMDb. She doesn't even have a bow. She doesn't have a big old cello. Like, they could have easily been like, oh, let me get that for you. You know, little thing like you carrying a big instrument. Cello is a big instrument.
Yeah, if you're walking out of the symphony, do you not take your own instruments to practice?
Put it in your locker, maybe. I'm sure.
What are you going to practice at home?
You probably have a practice cello.
Maybe.
Maybe not. I mean, depending on how nice of one, you can only afford the one. They could have just easily made her a clarinetist. Like, why'd it have to be a cellist then?
I think there's probably more reference to her being a cellist in the second movie, but don't quote me.
Okay.
Well, I mean, that's
it's
how
this... It's a plot point. It's a musical Ghost to Bust.
My write-up might have been like, you know, after all the information had come in.
I don't know. I have a note that just says, no idea what's going on with Winston. He is nothing. Like, there's nothing going on with this guy. I wanted there to be, but there wasn't anything. Okay. So we got to talk about the EPA guy, a.k.a. Dickless, whose real name I do not know.
Oh, wait, his real name, I can find that for you.
What's the point of any of this? He comes in one time and is like, hello, I'm from the EPA. Let me see your thing. And Bill Murray was like, no. It was okay. I'm going to come back with a warrant. He comes back with exactly one police officer.
Yeah.
He comes back with one unopened packet of papers that he states a bunch of warrant words about, and one employee of the municipal power system.
who's like, I don't know what that
and
is.
is screaming that this needs to be shut off immediately.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense. I worked for the state government on a county level. So from a bureaucracy standpoint, didn't even get like very high up into anything. The amount of time that it takes for someone at Indiana Department of Child Services to get a copy of like an autopsy from a local coroner if there's some kind of child fatality, like that's bureaucracy, right? I mean, you're asking for this, and we have email and stuff now. You can't, this isn't how it works, my guys. For him to come in and be screaming at him like this, like there has to be, I wanted someone to be like, what's the plan? Why? What do you think turning this off is going to do? How was it worse?
Yeah, they just
I had no insight into this guy's brain of what he wanted and what he was thinking. Because my next note is like, what is his motivation? He starts yelling to the mayor about how it's a hoax and they're using nerve gas. I was like, they must have cut out a scene earlier that they would explain to me why he's trying to sabotage this business, because I'm not seeing them polluting anything.
I feel like that's real world right there. Sometimes people are going to want to sabotage you and you have no idea what the heck they're doing.
He's not people. He's just one person that's supposed to be representing a gigantic government agency.
That's correct. Yeah.
And so I thought that he was going to be a ghost. He was possessed by a ghost or Zool or something. And it was like they're getting too close, because he kind of had a weird crazy eye from the very beginning. Yeah. Right? And obviously he goes crazy later. It's very weird.
With the whole conversation was it was also kind of creepy.
Mm-hmm. It's very off.
He's like, what are you doing here? And why don't you show me your magic storage system?
So I just have to walk through it. He gets there. He semi-accuses them of, this isn't a real thing. Okay, let me show me your storage system. We won't. Okay, I'll get a warrant. And he comes back. He screams at them to shut it down, forces them to do so. Sees the building blow up. Yeah. Then wants them arrested for blowing their building up, which is what he insisted on doing.
Yep.
Which, like, okay, you're covering your tracks. Like, I get the motivation behind that. I don't know why he did it, but I now understand why you wouldn't want to own up to it. He goes to the mayor's office with them and says, this is a hoax. They're preying on innocent people. Like, that is not any of, that's
none of what you said before.
It doesn't connect in any way either.
Right. Yeah.
Obviously, in both cases, you're lying, but you're changing all of it, and you still seem to really believe it. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what he brought to any. I mean, they just needed a way to force them to let all those ghosts back out. From a plot perspective, like, we'll just have a guy from the EPA come in and be really mad for no reason. Like, it was half baked, and it honestly bothers me. Like, I don't understand.
I don't know. I think maybe they just needed it for the ghosts.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me.
It was funny watching them go into the hot dog cart or whatever. Like, I get the ghost coming back out. That's a problem. They broke containment. But
maybe they needed a mini villain, which is what he is, to help unite them.
They had to work harder to write him an illogical lack of motivation. So
if they didn't have him at all, how would the ghost get out? And what happened by the ghost getting out anyways? Let's
just do the same thing, except you give me one shot of the sewer system from this firehouse is leaking green. It's leaking green ghost ooze, and they really are polluting, and maybe they don't even know it. Now the EPA is mad. Now I understand why he's there. Yeah. He can point to something. It all is falling into place for me. But none of it was true, and he lied about it in multiple different ways for no discernible reason that I could find, unless he was in love with Sigourney Weaver.
He wouldn't even know that she was part of the thing.
Like, there's nothing. So I don't know. I just, in all caps, what is he talking about? What is his motivation? Why is this happening?
The only other thing that storyline brings is the political military support, which is kind of a weird way to say that.
Which does what? What does that do?
Which just got them an escort to the building at the end.
Right. Which they didn't need because everyone in town loves them.
Yeah.
Why? I mean, I know they were popular, and then things blew up, and now they're all extra excited about them. Yeah. They didn't helicopter them to the roof.
I'm curious. Maybe there was a scene cut out. That would be interesting.
It seems like it. We're going to have to do some research. If you know anything about the background here,
you should call us.
You should call us at
our phone number.
937. I don't know what the phone number is. And at this point, I'm pretending I'm not going to learn what the phone number is. I'm pretending to think it's funny. Like, oh, that's just my thing. I don't know the phone number. Blah.
I say it every time, and then I always have to ask before I say it. But I
did that for the whole Harry Potter one too. Do you have it right here?
And I will in a minute.
Okay. So was Bill Murray like hot in the 80s? Was he considered attractive at this time?
Nobody I've ever heard talk about Bill Murray has ever said that he's attractive. Not that I think he's
I'm missing something.
Unattractive, but he's not like dreamboaty.
Right. I was at this point in the movie trying to find a reason why I was supposed to have ever connected with this character.
240-668-4376.
Movies.
It
has movies in it, doesn't it?
I don't know.
Me neither.
I feel like my dad liked Bill Murray at one point because he was funny. Like he remembered thinking he was funny. I feel like that's his thing. Everybody thought he was funny.
I would love to see Bill Murray being funny, but it didn't happen in this movie for me.
No.
So let's talk about the finale. They climbed upstairs. Was that funny?
Was it funny or was it relatable? Because I hate climbing stairs, so I totally get that. Let me know when we get to floor 20, I'm going to puke. I feel like
2 minutes of that.
2 floors, man.
Well, you're 5 feet tall.
Yes.
You're like, you've got to swing your leg up to get up to the stair.
For shorter people.
Yeah. I'm just like tilting my foot and I go up a stair.
Yeah.
It's not that hard.
It's very true.
I can do 2. Have you ever taken 2 stairs at once?
Yes. And I can do the first like 4 steps, 4 of my steps. So what is this? 8 steps is fine. But the higher I go, the harder it is. And then I'm like crawling up the stairs.
Yeah. I'm picturing you like having to lunge to get your foot up 2 steps. Yeah.
It happens. I would rather walk an extra long distance than climb upstairs.
To go up a ramp.
Yeah.
Or something.
No, a ramp's different. Ramp's fine.
Yeah.
Stairs, not so much.
Stairs are hard. They get all the way up the stairs. Here's a new person. It's not Sigourney Weaver, I don't think. At first I thought it was Sigourney Weaver still. But Sigourney Weaver's inside a dog gargoyle.
Oh, yes.
Along with, and so also is Rick Moranis.
Yes.
It's Gozer, which is androgynous David Bowie character.
Yes.
Gozer does a backflip.
Which was weird, but fun.
Yeah, it was fun. It's just that whole scene is very slow paced. They walk up, they look at it for a while, they talk to it about being a god, they get knocked down.
End of the movie, it's sort of anticlimactic.
It's so slow.
Yeah.
And it's just, I have to be like, it's 1984. They couldn't do boom, boom, shoot, shoot, like a lot of whip cuts. Like they couldn't do it that way.
There was more action trying to get Slimer in the ballroom.
Yeah.
Like more pacing, dynamics, more things happening than at the end of this movie. And I don't know why they like did that.
They eventually took a shot, completely missed. They took another shot, pretended to hit, and then I don't know what happened. It went away and then said, choose your fighter. And they said marshmallow. Yeah,
which is very video gamey to me. Like, choose your fighter.
What was it? What was supposed to be my takeaway here? What was the movie about? Was it just about busting ghosts? It's not about the triumph of the human spirit. It's not about, mankind coming together to defeat a larger enemy. It's not like what's the moral of the story?
I like to think of it, and this is a very hot take. Like I have not developed this theory too much.
Good.
Outside of us just sitting here.
Yes.
But I like to think of it as even if you don't exactly know what you're doing and you fail at something, you can still be good at something else.
Right. Okay. They get kicked out of being bad at being college professors.
Yep.
So then it turns out what they're actually good at is ghost busting.
Yep. And they do it pretty well.
Yeah.
Maybe not super successfully, but they get better. Like they start it, they do it, they get better, they're getting paid.
They get good at it.
Yeah.
Until it got shut down by the EPA for no reason.
I mean, by the end of the movie, they're actually better at the gun packs and coordinating together and like working as a team. So it's a realistic journey.
Yeah.
I'm using that term loosely, but a realistic journey as like not knowing how to do it and getting better. You
got to take the steps to get to practice and get better at something.
You're not just going to be great.
I was workshopping some kind of take that was like, just because something's big and hard, like you got to take the first step towards doing it.
Yeah.
That's not really what they're doing. They're just starting a business and then it kind of works and they find themselves in the middle of this thing.
Yeah.
They cross the streams. Is that an allegory for something? I don't think so. I think this is before they're putting that kind of thought. Don't cross the streams. You still hear that a lot in popular culture.
I mean, I say it.
Mm-hmm. Don't cross the streams. Yeah. I don't know. My takeaway from Ghostbusters is that I didn't get it.
So do you feel very disappointed?
I think so, yes. I tend in these kind of situations, I mean, this is a stone cold classic, popular culture, iconic movie.
That is referenced all the time in so many different genres that reference it.
Yes. It has several sequels now, generations of them. I'm blaming myself. I'm like, what did I do? Was I not in the right headspace? I didn't give enough of a chance. I have a negative outlook on the early physical comedy and that soured me on it. Like, is it my fault? I got some of the Rick Moranis stuff, but like he's acting so hard that I check out a little bit. Like, okay, dude, like, all right, you're banging on the glass and then you're not, and then you are, and then you're not. Like that went on for a while. So the scenes just dragged. Yeah. That even him, like, chewing scenery was like, I wasn't like, oh, like I'm in a good mood about this now. I just don't get it. I don't get the movie.
Yeah. I don't think it's a you thing. Okay. I think I just didn't stand up very well.
It doesn't hold up. It might not hold up.
I will say I watched the new one, not the all-female cast one. I didn't see that one, but the one with...
Wow.
I know.
You'll go and see the new Ghostbusters movie, but not the all-female cast?
Well, I don't really love it. This is on you. I don't always love it when they completely like reboot it. I liked the new one.
To connect a little bit more?
Yeah. Because I like the references. And I will say, having seen the first two and then the Ghostbusters Afterlife, I feel like that one was good. There were funny things. There were enough throwbacks.
Is this the first Finn Wolfhard?
Yes.
Okay.
There were funny things and there were enough throwbacks to the things in the originals that I could enjoy, but none of like the weird creepiness. Right? Like you get a whole scene of them, they find the car. Aww. And so you get a whole scene of them in the car. And that's fun because of the car. Oh, one of the things I forgot to say in the beginning, not the beginning, maybe halfway through, whatever, when Egon's talking about the storage system is like hitting max but the activity level of New York is like crazy, and he holds up the Twinkie and he's like, it would be
a 35-foot, 100,000 ton Twinkie or whatever. Yeah. And
I did write down, and now maybe he didn't actually do this, but because he's so super smart, I like to think that he just did that math in his head.
Right.
And I love that because that's another thing that I do not relate to at all. I'm not doing math in my head.
Oh, wow.
Like he just converted the numbers on the meter that he's looking at to measurements of a Twinkie. That's some real conversion you have to do there.
I assume that he's just trying to give a scale for like you to picture how big of a deal it was, than it wasn't actually, but maybe.
I like to think it was actual because he's very smart. My bigger takeaway
was that it's one of those things, it's a Big Bang Theory thing where he's so smart that he's bad at explaining things. And because when you say a 35-foot, 40,000 ton Twinkie, it's like, that actually wasn't helpful at all.
Because you don't really know what that looks like.
Sometimes people will be like, a million seconds is 2 weeks, but a billion seconds is 9 years. And that helps you understand the difference between a million and a billion. You're like, oh, that was helpful. Thank you. And this is the opposite of that. It was like, from a Twinkie to like picture just a really big Twinkie. And you're like,
picture a giant Stay Puft Marshmallow guy.
And so I was like, it's one of those funny things like dorky guy, bad at words. He's bad at words, but good at math kind of thing. Yeah.
And there's a throwback to the Stay Puft Marshmallows in the new one.
I'm sure.
So I feel like it hits the good points of the old ones and holds up because obviously it like just came out. Well, a few years ago, but still.
I mean, there were movies that were about things. The last episode I did was Fiddler on the Roof, and that was about things. And that came out 13 years before this.
Yeah.
So the idea of a movie being about things wasn't brand new when this came out.
It makes me a little sad because
they made the movie to make lunchboxes.
Yeah.
Well,
it tied in with the comic books and stuff.
What?
It tied in with comic books.
There's Ghostbuster comic
I'm
books?
like 90% certain there's Ghostbuster comic books.
If this is based on an already existing property that had canon and lore and backstory, I respect it so much less. Because then that means that they were very lazy about explaining any of the EPA stuff. And they had to have actively cut out something that would have made any sense.
No.
I'm sure did the comic books come out later?
Yes.
Okay. Because this was a popular movie.
Probably.
The movie was just like, let's get Harold Ramis and Dan Aykroyd and Bill Murray together and they'll be funny and they'll be Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
And then it became popular and I get that.
Yeah, that must be it. Yeah. And then there was a cartoon at one point.
Yeah, for sure.
So it just, but you're right. It's not really, maybe I'm not really reaching, but if I have to pull something away from it, that's what I pull away from it.
Yeah. Which is fine. I mean, like if you love it, I would love to talk to someone that is like super into it and has watched it a bunch of times and is like, no, what you're missing is this. Like, I might be missing stuff. Like, let me know, honestly. I want to like it. I came in excited about it.
I feel like I've started hitting more of these movies where I probably won't watch Ghostbusters again.
Yeah.
Like, I'll reference the things that I reference. Don't cross the streams. There is no Dana. I say those things.
Oh, okay.
But I probably won't ever watch it again.
I don't blame you.
It just, and I don't know if like my taste changed so much or maybe, I'm looking for more now. I don't know.
Listener, if you are absolutely flabbergasted by our take, not even lukewarm, just us being anti-Ghostbusters now and feeling bad about it in my case, please let us know if you're a strong Ghostbusters fan, if you agree with us, if you think Bill Murray is creepy, if you think Bill Murray is hot.
Yeah, I would be curious in all of those opinions.
Or was hot. I mean, I'm not holding you to modern day, extremely wrinkly Bill Murray. He's got his own sort of grandpa charm now, and that's different, and I get that. But explain to me the Bill Murray thing, and it's not, I'm just too young / missed this piece of culture. So I'd love to hear what you guys think about our take on Ghostbusters.
Yep. Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed it.
And don't cross the streams. Bye.